There's Alex's journal, and it's here. Fell on my head almost. Alex wrote neatly, and he wrote sort of with a little depth and detail. So you can actually read Alex's writing. On the 9th, business is rather dull. Ammunition seems to be the only wants of the county people. Some of them are well frightened. And see, this is much later than they organized the home guard. The cavalry drilled today at 3 o'clock and got along very well. They drilled at the old fairgrounds. You know, out by, what's that, the Wilson Auction House out in that area? Yeah. On the 9th, we went through some more exercises. We dismounted and went through some saber exercises. We came in town and went through some maneuvers, disbanded on Church Street, opposite, I think, Ivy Duclos' house, and had the pleasure of having her for a spectator. She was on the porch with Mary Mumford. And I've cut a lot about Alex says, but he's got a lot of these things. I don't know if it's Ivy, it's up there, it looks like my duck, really, but I think it's something Duclos. There was an Isadora Duclos who would have been about the right age. I don't know how that name becomes Isadora. But he had a sort of an affection for her, but he's afraid of her. He wanted to ask her walking with him, but he never did do it. He walks with other women, but not this particular woman. And she was on the front porch with Mary Mumford, who was, I think, 17 then. I went to the library. You know, you think about what is special about New Harmony. I think it's that he went to the library. He was often in his journal talking about coming to this library and what he picked up, what he read, how they sat here and talked. And now he's also talking to an 18-year-old and 17-year-old, so it may not all be about educational topics. But just the only one I didn't take it out. I took most of other comments out, but they came here a lot. It was central to their thoughts and life here. May 13th, the Governor's Company under Saltzman got their flag. It's 9 foot long and made of silk. The cost was $40. It is a very pretty one. The flag of the Cavalry is in town. We will have it out on Saturday, perhaps if it is a good day. Frank Bolton is making the staff. That's Achilles' Frederick. His is later now when the Cavalry Company is beginning to leave. Alex quit writing, and Achilles sort of takes over. There's a picture of him. I don't think there's a picture of Alex. I haven't found one. Before Alex left, they went to the photography. It's at Thrall's, the drugstore on Main Street, and they were going to have their picture taken, but a fly buzzed on Alex's nose, and he kept laughing. And you had to hold steady for about a minute to get a picture, so they never got a picture. So I've never seen a picture of Alex. Alex and I went to the ball last night, which was one of the best balls we ever had. Alex took Belle Wheatcroft. I took Amelia Mumford. We danced until 3 o'clock this morning. There is a ball about every week in New Harmony during this time period. If they had an occasion to celebrate, they did. There seems to be a theatrical production about every 2 weeks or a month here. They're just, and, well, I'll see a picture of Belle coming up. I don't know. Amelia was 12. That's what the census records say. Seems awfully late for a 12-year-old to be out at 3 o'clock in the morning. Belle is often in Alex's letters, and he often went walking with her and spent time with Belle. There she is. She was an officer in the Minerva Society, and she was for a while director of this institute. So I've cut the rest of her letters out of this for time's sake, but she's an interesting girl. She did not marry Alex. She married a man named Otto Miller. Achilles' journals are shorter. They're more objective. That's a day. Each one of those a day. Remember, Alex has filled a page. The Cavalry Company went out to the fairgrounds about 8 o'clock, had the roll called, and then marched by twos into town, where they were cheered on all corners. Probably right out here. Right. They left town for Evansville at 10 o'clock. They looked very well. 79 sober, nice-looking men, all in good spirits, and in a good cause. It is an honor for Posey County. And after bidding us all goodbye, Alex left us. He rode Dove and looked comfortable and satisfied. He had everything we could devise for his comfort with him. May they all return safe, and that before long. Captain J.K. Hyman, Lieutenant James Forth, Second Lieutenant Julian Dale Owen. I don't know why I put that last line in there. Dove, it was a mare. Cavalry soldiers at this time period in the war had to provide their own horses. I know John Kell Highman left here with 4. I know that John Smith Gavitt, the major of the regiment, took several horses too, and he was a horseman. He raced horses and raised them for a living. In fact, he sold the 18-year-old Charles McLean. He sold him the horse. Dove had trouble keeping up, and there's lots in the journal about Dove not being able to stay with what the other maneuvers are. So they're going to Evansville on the 16th of July. That's Evansville, 1864-ish. Those are gunboats on the Ohio. This is a painting from the museum. Pigeon Creek, somewhere along there is about Astar. Right there is the old courthouse, which had been at 3rd and Main at that time. Okay, and these fishermen are at the base of Coal Mine Hill. And if I follow these tracks up, I'm on Wrights Hill. So that's what Evansville looked like in about 1864. And that's a picture. I think Bill Bartelt found that picture of Evansville, probably 1860. Main Street, huh?
I think it's 1862.
Okay, 1862. This is Main Street, and that's 3rd right about there, and there's the courthouse, and down here would be 2nd. This one's dense, you don't have to read it or anything, but the Evansville Daily Journal picked up the story. And they've been talking about the 1st Indiana Cavalry all along, and they've been talking about it from the perspective of Conrad Baker, because he's the colonel. Governor Morton asked Conrad Baker to become colonel of the 1st Indiana. These are the companies that actually came to Evansville. That's 8. There actually were 14, but 6 of them stayed over closer to Louisville, and they never did join Conrad Baker. First fatal accident on July 10th of 1861. And this is July 17th, reporting on yesterday, when the 1st Indiana Company C arrived in Evansville. This is where they were, at the salt well. That's Lamasco Park today in Evansville. That's the Columbia Overpass. This is Pigeon Creek. If I go down there, I'm at the Civics Theater and Deaconess Hospital. Pleasure Park, then, it was called the Salt Well. It became Cook Park, and then it became Pleasure Park, and now it's Lamasco. It's always been something like that. I cut a letter from Alex here back to Bell. He wrote it the second day he was there, talking about how good accommodations they had, good food, good places to live, good places to have the ball if they wanted to, bad water to drink, because they're right there at Pigeon Creek. John Kell Highman wrote to his wife. These letters are here in the archives. His writing's not as neat as Alex's or Achilles, and this is common and hard. The pages were like, it's 4 pages. You write on one page, open it up, and write on this page, and then this page, and then this page. Well, if you got a 5th page, when you got to waste a lot of paper, or do that. And it's hard on a good writer. It's really hard on a bad writer. For John Kell, spelling's okay. Punctuation was very much optional. And so I've had to add punctuation. I tried just to leave it like it is, but I found I couldn't read it. I couldn't make sense of what I was reading if I did that. So he wrote to Jane on the July 21st, the men in good spirits with plenty to eat. We had acquisition of 2 fractions of companies on last evening, to wit, Captain Walker Newberg and Captain Baston's company. We are progressing rapidly in the drill. About 5 hours is occupied every day on drill, which myself and Lieutenant Owen, what it says, and very busy as yet not having our subordinates appointed. At this point, they still belong to Indiana. They haven't been given over to federal service yet. That'll happen right about the time they ship out to Missouri. Same day, we have much, the finest company in camp, and all Posey County men? I don't know, can't read it. After drill yesterday, I visited the city with my company, who made a very fine appearance. We will have our uniforms in a few days. Commissioned officers use uniforms made in Evansville. And actually, the men didn't get their uniforms. They already talked about getting to St. Louis they were glad they got there in the dark, because they didn't look so good. August 8th, a little bit later. I am coming home before I go, as I expect to be one of the 4 companies detached, sent off to Missouri. We have the only full company in camp.
We are getting along tolerable smoothly. 3 or 4 trials by court-martial every day.
On day before yesterday, we drummed out 4 at once. Everything is done by system. We have regular hours for everything. We have tolerable good health in camp. That's going to get to be very important as the war progresses. Because, you know, camp death by disease outnumbers military death 2 to 1 in the Civil War. It's very hard for men of my feeling to be shut out from home and family. You must look over it, because I think it is every man's duty to contribute something to the support of liberty and freedom in these United States. That's the closest I'm going to get to why he did this, what he went off for. He's in Lynn Township, and it did vote for Lincoln, almost 2 to 1. So I don't know, maybe there's an inkling of anti-slavery here, I don't know. They went off to war to save the Union. If we had assurance of staying here long, I would like to see Miss Catherine Highman, that's his 14-year-old daughter, and a distant cousin, Catherine Wilson, and a close cousin, Cole, I don't know who she is, and spend a few hours and take dinner with me. They can have comfortable lodging overnight in town without costing them anything. I don't know if they got there for that. I know that there's a document here about the Johnson family that she married into, about the grandson talking about his grandmother and how he loved her, and she describes at age 14 going to a dance in Evansville and all the young officers in their uniforms. She remembers that. Probably did happen. Julian Dale Owen got married just before they left to St. Louis, and his wife was very pregnant at that time. Probably she would not have come to a dance. I would be very glad to return home today, but cannot until Colonel Baker returns from Indianapolis. Then we will be able to know something about our destination and have leave. We expect to go to Missouri under Fremont. August 10th, 1861, the Battle of Wilson's Creek is happening. He doesn't even know it, and for sure they're going to be going to Missouri, because that was a loss to the Federal Army. So they're in St. Louis. They packed up on trains. Took them 3 hours to get out of town. Took them 2 days to cross from Evansville to Vincennes, St. Louis. So he's writing to her now. My dear wife, it was not for the, I don't know, that I have found myself to believe, to wit, that you are all well. I would fail miserably because I have not heard from home since I left. I'm afraid your letters have not been properly stamped. You know the old stamps will not go now. I trust you have received the letters I sent about a week ago. As I get this correctly, what I think has happened when the southern states seceded, they took over federal property, among them the post offices, and in the post offices they got the stamps. So the northern post offices changed their stamps. I don't know if she had the wrong stamp or not. It's pretty obvious that she wrote them for where her farm was in Rush Creek, but she had to mail them from New Harmony. So it may have taken her a few days to get around to mailing them. Colonel Baker is at Indianapolis. He's always at Indianapolis because they came in under supply. They didn't have their weapons. They didn't have their saddles. They didn't have their uniforms. Regiment is we have no arms yet, and trying to get Sharp's carbines. We have no arms yet, but saddles. I finished giving my men their clothing this morning with 1 hat, 1 coat, 1 pair of pants, 2 work shirts, 2 pairs of drawers, a pair of boots, 1 canteen, 1 canvas sack, which is made like a very large hunter's shot pouch made of leather for grub. So the men are getting outfitted. Your humble husband commands quite as much respect here as he does at home. My motto is to do my duty and do it promptly. I could not arrange my township business when I was there satisfactorily, but will, okay, it says, that's what he says. I think that means re-sign, not resign, soon, and send in the money to balance accounts. I think he's not resigning. He is re-signing and maybe making the bounty, because he does send some money to Jane.